So when we're talking about cross country, the sport of cross country, I guess the best way to start with that is a little history of where cross country came from. Cross country was a sport that was created by track and field athletes who didn't really have a lot of competition or did not want to compete in competitions off the track or on the track during their off season. Started in England in that area. I guess probably somewhere around the beginning of the modern Olympics, which would be late 1800. So what they would do is they would just basically run from one area to another, hopping streams and little hedges and walls or whatever was in the countrysides of that area. And that's where you get the different distances that have gone on over the decades here in the U.S. and it became a prep sport, college sport. There's a lot of history in there. You can look it up. There's a lot of pictures of people competing in the 1940s and the 1930s with no shoes. They're running 1.67 miles, whatever the distances are, and the distances vary from clubs, youth clubs running 1 kilometer to 2 kilometer, to high schools running 3 mile to 5 kilometer, and then you move into college. Community college, we compete at 4 miles for the males and 5K for the women. In university, they go up to 8 kilometers for the men and 6 kilometers for the women. And it's always changing. Back in the 60s and the 70s, the men used to run 10 kilometers. There was no women's cross country back then. And so I believe there's going to be a switch again where we're going to start to increase the distance of cross country to kind of mimic world's cross country. Cross country is not an Olympic sport. It's a world sport, though, and kind of shows part of its history of why it's not an Olympic sport, because the cross-country athletes normally are your track athletes, so they kind of are doing this in the off-season. As far as preference, I would say, I enjoy track and field more, but cross-country really it's an important part of the year for an endurance athlete, because it's when we really work our base phase, where we gain a lot of our strengths that should carry us through the rest of the season. Cross country technically became a team sport, but it can be run individually. If you're on a team, then you'll have your top 5 will score. You can have numerous amounts of people on your team, but I think mostly when you go to the championships in any type of whatever venue that you're in, from the youth all the way to the university and the pro, you can only have 7 on your team, and 5 of those 7 will score. Whatever place they finish, that's your score. So if you finish 150th, then you scored 150 points. So that's pretty much a brief synopsis of what cross country is. Mostly, there's really not a general rule for the sport of where you are supposed to participate in cross country, but the fact that the name cross country is in the sport, we tend to usually run them in parks. I know NC2A Division I has in their bylaws that the course for their championships has to be a closed course. Usually they'll use golf courses for that, since they're pretty convenient for and conducive towards that type of running and sport. If you are on courses that are predominantly grass to dirt, then some cross-country runners will wear spikes, just similar to like they will wear in track and field. The training could be a little different than you would do for track training. Usually longer intervals and over the terrain that you would be competing on. So, and it just really depends on the coach's philosophy on how they want to train their cross-country athletes. Normally, you would not get a scholarship just for cross-country. There are a few exceptions to that rule, but very few. So mostly your cross country athletes will double as your track athletes. So, and you know, I've seen over the years that you could have fantastic 800-meter runners who are national champions, state champions, who are really great at cross country. So running the longer distances, and in my opinion, I think if you're a great runner, then you should be great at any distance.